Hello, boys and girls. We're back. We are back. If you've been wondering where I am, I have moved countries. I am in a completely different continent, and all my stuff is here. So, welcome to the first keyboard review in quite a long time. If you care about the move or whatever, there's an unlisted video in the description, which will walk you through like my setup that I had in Dubai, as well as like all the digital services and hosting stuff that I did. But today we are here to talk about the Neo series of boards. I have not reviewed a Neo board before, and so they have sent me their Core 60. They have sent me their 60Cu in HHKB. Why is that so bright? There we go. And they have sent me their 65Cu in the good layout. And we will be going through all three of these today. So right off the bat, the core starts at 80 US dollars and with a steel weight. It's a one-piece simple friction mount or O-ring mount, Bakeneko style. The 60% is available in mini 60% layouts. I have mine in HHKB, but it comes in wing keyless as well as standard. And those start at $165 with a full brass bottom. The third in line is the 65%, which is once again $165 for a full brass bottom. My units here are not the base model. The base models are priced as plateless. So if you want to add a plate, you do not require a plate. But if you want to add a plate, you're going to have to pay extra for that. So all of these are available for sale right now from Neo. It's not a group buy. This is the price to buy the keyboard. And so what more is there to say? I do have a QK Alice Duo, and that review will probably be coming in like August or September because my backlog is large. But yeah, let's roll the intro. Hello and welcome to my desk, where we are going to be going through all three of these keyboards. There's going to be quite a lot in this video, so feel free to skip around, use the timestamps, all that good stuff. We're going to start off with, I guess, just the unboxing experience, which we'll do for just one keyboard to get a feel for what comes in the box. Now, as always, these keyboards were sent to me for free by Neo. By my own rules, I do not get to keep them. If I want to keep them, I need to pay retail price for them. So these are very likely going to be given away. And yeah, so every single one of the keyboards that we are going to go through today comes in a hard case. The hard cases are a little bit different. This one has a handle. This one also has a handle. And this one here, which is for the core, has a little cheap fabric strap instead of an actual handle. Oops. Alrighty. So every single one of these, oh no, that's the core in there. Yeah, it's in the wrong case. All right, every single Neo board is going to come with a keycap puller / switch puller, a tool for doing the screws on your keyboard, and a USB-C to USB-A cable that I think is maybe like 1.2 meters long, around about 4 feet long. You also get many foams, but we didn't use any of those foams. Here you see a plate. This is a aluminum plate. I have built all of these boards plateless. Here we can see some alternative gaskets. In addition to the gaskets that were installed, there are a couple gasket options, and there's some extra screws in there. All right, and that's basically it. And then you get the keyboard in there. I think it would make the most sense to start with the core because it's probably the simplest of the products. So let's do that. All right, so this is the Core 60. This very specific version right here is hot swap. You can tell because I can do that. Just take a switch out. The hot swap implementation, it's pretty good. Cherry switches, I have cherry reds in here just for funsies. I put cherry reds in here. They're stock, so they don't sound amazing. But you do get stabilizers, by the way. Stabilizers are included in every single Neo board that we're going to cover today, including this little cheap one. So this is gasket mounted, as we can see, to the case. It is a one-piece case, but it's got a PVD weight on it. Hello. Hello there. Cute little feet. It's got quite a bit of heft to it. Nice little USB-C port. Very accessible. Very comfortably fits relatively large connectors. I believe it does fit my most largest of connectors. We can see that the case design on the sides is flat, and then we've got an angled cut at round about, that looks like 40-ish degrees. And then on the back comes straight down and then angles in a little bit to give us a little bit of that shape when it comes to the side profile. So for a O-ring, sussy, Bakaneko, whatever you want to call it, for this form factor of product, this is relatively unique. And the thing that makes it the most unique is the weight. So I expect a standard, plateless O-ring mount, 60% with no caps on it, to maybe weigh like 800 grams, maybe 900. This is 1,500 grams. It's pretty hefty. It's a big boy. All right, we'll get this PCB off just to have a look inside, I guess. Now, I'm sure that like they give you a tool to do this properly, to like lift it up. Is it the magnet? Do they give you a magnet to do that? Or is the magnet for another keyboard? I think the magnet was for another keyboard. Okay. The magnets don't do anything. All right, I'm just going to pull on this. It's got to be like pullable somewhere. Let me try some tweezers. Again, let's actually check. Let's actually check the correct hard case and see if we have the tool that's meant to open this. Okay, what do we got here? We got an O-ring, we've got beats, we've got extra screws. None of that is helpful so far. What do we have? We have stabilizers, we have 2 plates, we have more means, and foam. Okay, so there's nothing here. All right, that's fine. We're just going to open this the old-fashioned way, using good old-fashioned YOLO. So I'm going to take these tweezers. I'm going to find a random hole that I can pull on. Right there, I see the stabilizer hole. That's a good candidate. I'm just going to pull up. There we go. Until I dislodge everything. Success. There we go. Lovely. We'll take a look at this first, but as we can see here, I was able to pull out the entire assembly. I didn't have to undo a JST cable. I didn't have to fiddle with a daughter board. I didn't have to do anything. I just pulled it straight out, which is pretty cool. And all of the gaskets are still adhered to the PCB. Very cool. All right, let's have a look here. Now, I built every single keyboard without foam, asterisk, and that asterisk is just as a habit. I always put in like the very bottom layer of like protective whatever. So if it's like a thin foam thing like this, I'll install it. If it's a plastic, like a clear plastic sheet, I'll use that instead. I'm used to building solder boards, not hot swap boards, so by default, I just put something on the bottom to prevent shorting. All right, so what do we got here? We can see that the weight on the back is actually quite large, so that is hefty. That is very, very hefty. Well, let's see if their included screwdriver actually opens this. How about that? I mean, it should. Nope. 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 And nope. I presume this is for one of the other boards. Unfortunately, they all look identical. All right. Let me find a actual screwdriver. That is too small. That is also too small. Are you also too small? Nope. All right. I actually want to pop this weight out just to see how much mass this weight actually has. These are very small screws for a weight. Obviously, right here, we can see a magnetic pogo pin system. To those of you that are sitting there staring at your screens, being like, Simon, why aren't you telling people what that is? That is a pogo pin magnetic system. So that attaches magnetically to these contact points here. So this little connector here is on the end of a cable, so it's got a little bit of movement, a little bit of slack. So if I were to, oh, okay, so apparently does not come out any further than this, but it does go down. Interesting. Okay. Thought it would have a little bit more play. All right, we've nearly got this weight off. I am currently touching the weights with my fingers on the other side, so they're going to be very fingerprinted. But hey, we're doing it for the review. All right, and it looks like we're going to have to remove the center screws as well. There we go. And yep, there's the weight. All right. So that's the secret right there. The secret is, even though this is like, you know, a sussy Bakaneko, it's got two internal steel weights, very well hidden, sandwiched between the bottom and the actual brass weight. That's pretty cool. And if we look closely here, we can see that they've actually put a tiny piece of rubber as a force brake on the bottom weight. That is quite interesting. And here we can see the ribbon cable that we no longer have to deal with because we've actually got a nice functional system here. Oh, it just fell through. Oh no. Okay, well, apparently that's how it works. It's a tiny little PCB with a tiny little surface mounted component on it, and then the back is connected via a ribbon cable to the daughter board. And the daughter board design is the more modern, longer variant with the port in the middle. Interesting. All right. Now, as a one-piece, you know, friction fit O-ring or ledge mount O-ring, whatever you want to call it, because there are, yes, indeed, ledges here, and that's where your O-ring mounts. So when you push it in, that's kind of how it mounts. You guys should know how O-rings work, right? The other way is with these, and these are also friction fit, but once you push them in far enough, what they do is they get far down enough to get caught by this, and then they won't come back up, and it actually holds quite well. You can lift the entire weight of the board from like this assembly, and it'll hold. It'll hold. Now, as a one-piece sussy Bakaneko type dealio, it has no screws. But I did promise all of the Patreon members that I would do a screw review. So these are the screws that hold in the weight. And to be fair, they're pretty nice screws when it comes to like weight screws. So these are M2.0 by 5, I think. But what? Don't worry about it. It's a 2.0. They're all very, very clean. The heads are not knurled, as is expected. And the threads look clean. The plating looks good. Yeah, these are good screws. Like, very clearly all of this stuff was very cleanly done at the factory. Uh, this is an e-coat, I guess, though its texture is a little bit closer to something like micro arc oxidation, if you're familiar with that. It kind of feels more like Cerakote or like an oven dried powder coat than an e-coat does. E-coats tend to be very smooth feeling, kind of like anodization, right? There's only like a slight difference with like a good e-coat, but this has a little bit of texture to it, which I don't hate. I think this is supposed to be like a matrix type finish, like a McFlurry or whatever. Okay, so we can have a quick look at the daughter board just for funsies. I mean, whilst we've got everything out. That is too small. You're a 1.5 and you're too small. And oh, actually, that's why. That's a Torx. That's not a hex. That might be a problem because I don't have any Torx drivers. Unless, where's the tools? All right, no tools in here. Oh, it'd be in the case that I pulled it out of. Okay. All right. Yep, that's a Torx. And it is the correct size. All right, so Neo does indeed give you the correct tool to open what you need to open. That's a pretty nice screw as well. Honestly, that might be my favorite screw so far. All right, and we're nearly in. So this is just a tiny piece of aluminum that is anodized in silver and not greatly done, in my opinion. But yeah. All right, and down here we can actually see the interesting bits. So we can see how the daughter board is kind of put together. So we have little connectors on the right and left, and those would go to a battery. In our case, we have two internal steel weights to give this a little bit more heft. There's the other side of the ribbon cable that we saw that plugs into this assembly right here. And then the USB port is actually on the underside of here. We can see the 4 attachment points right there where the connector is soldered to the PCB on the opposite side, which pretty cool, honestly. A little bit of a PVD little badge there on the back. This one's in a nice golden color. I like the machining marks on the steel. You can feel them, so they're very much intentional. The external weight, I'm not the biggest fan of like big shiny weights, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. All right. So that's basically it for the core, right? Now let's just we'll just talk about it now that we've mostly got it apart, right? So I have a hot swap version. There's a solder version, obviously. Everything comes with stabs. You are locked to a normie bottom row. Wait, are you? No, you're not. Nope, I lied. Did I? Nope. Yep. Even hot swap has Senga bottom row compatibility, which is very nice. I was thinking of the 65% that kind of forces you into a very inefficient non-standard bottom row or two standard bottom row. This is hot swap and plateless. Is that incredibly stupid? Yeah, it absolutely is. Does it still sound good? Yes. This is a very good plateless implementation when it comes to actually using the board, and I like that. PCB, rock solid. Even the hot swap PCB has decent layout support. We got 7U and 6.25U bottom rows. We've got ISO and ANSI. So you've got your enter and your shift. You've got a split backspace right there. It's not so bad. And you've got some options over here for either a full size right shift or a split right shift if you want your function. But yep, it's a standard PCB thickness, 1.6. It might be a coreless PCB because there is a very decent amount of flex coming out of it, and I do like that. So the plateless implementation of this, right? We have to consider the reality, which is this is hot swap, so we're obviously gonna pretend that like I built a solder version. The plateless implementation actually sounds good. Reminder that all we had was one little thing at the very bottom of the case, just to prevent shorting, even though yes, it's hot swap, but it sounds good. It's got a nice deep sound with completely stock cherry reds, unlubed, and just like ABS caps. It sounds pretty good. Build wise, I think if you're looking for plateless, like maybe it makes sense to do this. Obviously not hot swap. Maybe it makes sense to get a Core 60. But like with, I don't know, if we look at competition, like I don't know, like the Frog Mini Legera with the Hall Effect PCB, it's mostly Hall Effect that's the wild card when it comes to this whole thing, right? Because if you can get a like a Hall Effect 60% cheaper and that's what you want, then you should do that, right? This product seems kind of weird in terms of why it exists in the Neo series, because this is the core, and we're going to look at the CUs, the 60Cu and the 65Cu, and the price difference between the two is not major, but the difference in what you're actually getting at the end of the day is massive, right? So I think like if you're looking for a non-Hall effect 60% and you want it to be like a one piece and you want it to be heavy, I guess Neo makes sense, the Core 60 makes sense. But if you want Hall effect, or you're okay having a lighter board, or you want to spend less money, any of that, and there are so many other players, including Neo themselves, that kind of makes this not make sense, right? It's still a fantastic feeling and a fantastic typing board, and by all means, the value is still good. But Neo is kind of shooting themselves in their own foot by, you know, I don't know. The Frog Mini is $69. That's the thing. That's the thing. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pack this all up and immediately cut to the Neo60. If you're looking for the typing test of this, it'll be after like all three boards, right? Check the timestamps. There'll be one specifically for this. Also remember that everything has been built plateless, all right? So if you're going to be building it with a plate, it's going to sound a little deeper, especially if it's going to be a plastic plate. And, you know, if you hear a little bit of rattling here and there, it's because hot swap. You guys thought I forgot about the black screw reviews. There you go. There's your black screws. Look how beautiful they are. They're very, 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 very small. I don't know what tool size they are because unfortunately this is unlabeled, but they're very nice, black coated, very shiny, ferrous, and very clean. 10 out of 10. Would screw again. Welcome to keyboard number 2, Electric Boogaloo. And I did lie to you guys if you've watched the video up until this point, because I told you that I built all the boards plateless. That was not true. This board has a PP plate, and the 65 also has a plate. So let's start off real strong with just weighing it. So this is the 60Cu with a brass bottom, the cheaper and more preferable version, at least for me. This is an HHKB, MX HHKB, so 7U instead of 6U, centered instead of on-centered. You know the whole gist. she's heavy. She's a heavy board. Just to put it into perspective. So the 60 core was around 1,500 grams without caps. So maybe like 1,700 grams with caps as a 60%. And that's decently hefty. This right here is nearly 2.4 kilos. That's about the weight of a TGR Jane V2, just for reference. So it is a very hefty board. It is a very heavy board. And for the price difference, it's kind of insane that you end up with a board like this. Now, this is a rose gold, their version of like rose gold. Like you see how it looks like goldish from this angle and kind of pinkish from this angle. That's basically it. Also, I do apologize for my lighting. I'm still working it out. It is what it is. So let's tour the board. Let's get the macro cam out. So very pretty board. And overall, the design aesthetic that Neo introduced in the CU series, originally with the 75CU, when I originally saw it, I found it to be an incredibly tasteful way of doing a side and keyboard bottom design. So check that out. So you've got multiple hard lines just breaking it up, which is unique, especially for something of this price point, and especially in these materials. So we're looking straight down the side here, and there is a tiny little indent here that's curved. That's not a straight cut, that is a curve right here. And then on the bottom, we've got a non-matching angle to try and just give it a little bit more layering and depth. And then here we've got another internal curvature that's also triangular. And the final external weight, the PVD weight here, just follows that pattern all the way around very, very nicely, very, very tastefully. The USB port is a little bit more sheltered than the Core 60, so you might have some difficulty getting larger cables in there, but they give you cables with the board, so like you just gotta plug it in. Just gotta plug it in. We've got their little engraving right here, very cute. If we zoom very, very, very closely, we can see that there is a hidden message, and the hidden message is see you. Whilst we're here, let's check out the quality of the brass. Now, I'll be honest, as if like I've been lying to you guys this whole time. The quality of the brass finishing is not the best I've seen. It's not amazing. The PVD is very well done. You don't have like waviness, you don't have ripples, you don't have any of the spooky things you expect from like lower quality PVD. And I'm not calling this lower quality PVD, but I'm just like giving you guys an idea of like, but yeah, I'll show you on the macro cam what that brass looks like. Might be hard to pick up on camera, but do you guys see what look to be some lines heading in this direction, right? That break up. It's basically banding, and banding is something you generally see with poor finishing on aluminum, where like it's not adequately hand polished. And I think that might be the thing. This just isn't adequately hand polished at the factory. Now, to put that into context, the thing that I am complaining about is something that I would complain about on a $500 to $600 keyboard. This is $160. All right, so grain of salt. All right, the entire bottom is gorgeous. We've got the weight piece. This inner bit right here is actually part of the bottom, not the weight. So we'll probably get this all opened up. These feet are adhesive, and sorry for blowing out your retinas. These feet here, the ones that I got were a little bit too long, and I needed to like snip it in order to make it fit. I could have theoretically heated it up and just like kept sticking it in there and like condensing it. Apparently for anybody getting this right now, it's not like group buy. You can just go and buy it right now. For anyone getting one of these right now, you will get correctly fitting feet. Alrighty, let's let's get inside. As we can tell, there are 0 screws on the back. This, as well as the 65Cu, are both screwless. Now, I dislike screwless for many reasons, okay? And I wish companies would stop doing it. Now, here's the thing. My general rule of thumb for screwless boards is I, Simon, in my infinite wisdom and truly far-reaching power, allow you to do screwless, as long as the bottom design is unique enough and pretty enough to make going screwless worth it. A good example I like to use on stream is, for example, like a tempered glass bottom. For example, you don't want to drill holes in that. This, I don't know. Again, the price is so low, I figure that like any complaints I have are completely irrelevant. All right, so I'm gonna get these caps off, and we'll you know what? No, let's try and figure this out, okay? It is screwless, but that means the screws are probably where we expect them to be. So there's probably a screw right there. There's probably a screw right here. Yep, there's probably a screw right there. I was wrong. Maybe it's off to the left by 1. It is indeed. It is between the 2 and the 3. Perfect. There might be a screw like here-ish. I'm going to take off the shift just for good measure. I was wrong. There is no screw there. So it might just be top and bottom. So let's see if I can... Yep, I can see a screw right there between the minus and the plus, because apparently screwless means you can see the screws all the time. And are there any other screws up here? Can't tell. Yep, I genuinely cannot tell if there's another screw here in the middle. But what we'll do is unscrew all these real quick and see what happens. We're going to use their included tool to try and open this up. All right. So their tool is not magnetic, which I guess isn't the hugest deal in the world, but like just having to fiddle with screwless stuff is one of the most annoying things that I've had to deal with. And again, I understand if you're doing like a real pretty bottom, but hey, this is a product that is, oh, do I see a screw there? I don't know. This is a product that is meant for, you know, people just entering the hobby, people looking for a more entry-level board. And let's see. Okay, there are definitely more screws. Oh, no, there are not. Okay, we found all the screws. Cool. As you can see, the bottom just like came off the top. Very cool. Because it is pogo pin. A screw just fell out. Oh yeah, one of the screwless screws. So let's get those out real quick so we don't lose them. This is the world we live in today, where this is how you get screws out of a keyboard. Okay, well, I got one. Okay, that one's kind of stuck in there. Let's see if we can get that out. See, normally, in order to like save time in this video, I'd probably cut this out, but you guys need to understand how annoying screwless is. Are you gonna turn, maybe? Are you gonna come out? That's just not coming out at all. All right, what if I try and like push it out from the bottom? There we go. I did the twist. Oh, it is slightly magnetic. Go figure. Okay. All right, so we've got the let me get the plate off. So I have top mounted this with a, is that PC or PP? Give me a second. That's PC. So I top mounted this with a PC plate. Interesting. And as you can tell, I didn't even put a little bottom protective layer of like plastic or foam or anything. That's interesting. All right. I'll skip forward to when I have the plate out and we can check out the case. So we got all the screws out. A lot of them are still stuck in this. It's basically a fully isolated top mount. So actually, it's a somewhat isolated top mount. So you've got a tiny little, oops, these screws are probably going to fall out. You've got a tiny little rubber sock right here that goes over a top mount hole. And then the screw goes through the rubber And I think the premise is it contacts as little polycarbonate as possible. If it contacted none of the polycarbonate, so for example, if that little crevice right there didn't exist and the screw went right through, that would be a fully isolated top mount, which coolio. Oh, we got more plate screws falling out. Lovely. I'm trying to figure out what these switches are. They're Neo switches. Oh yeah, they had sent me their like in-house switches. Now, I'm not sure if you can buy these just like off their website. I think they come bundled in with some of their pre-built keyboards, but I'll talk about the sound and feel later. It's quite interesting. Let me just pull the rest of these screws out so we can do a tiny little screw review. I'll tell you right now that the screws in this are not as nice as the screws in the core. So let's have ourselves a quick little look. So those are all of the plate screws right there. Sorry for the cable. And they're okay. They've got the black plating on them, reflective black plating, probably zinc coating. If you look at the tip of that one that I'm holding on to, you can see that like the very tip of it has the coating has worn off, which means like the threads aren't super clean. So those are all for the plate. And then here are the ones for the case. They're very, very similar to the point where they might be the same. I think they're the same exact. Okay, they're the same. Okay, so it uses, let's just mix these up. Yep, so it only uses one screw type. I guess you get extra points for that. So I would have given these screws a 6. I'll bump it up to a 7.5 for at least using the same screw everywhere. We take those. All right, we'll get to the plate PCB assembly later. Let's just check out the top and bottom case. So the top case weighs nothing because it's just a piece of aluminum. Give you guys a weight for reference. It's probably like 187 grams. It's 191 grams. I'm sorry, I was 4 grams off. You can expect my letter of resignation real soon. So the top is anodized in the pink goldish color. You've got the little screwless nubs. I hate it. It's real annoying. This board can be mounted in so many different ways that it's kind of wild. But we do see mounts here that are specifically meant for top mount. And we see little ridges here that are meant for the gasket mounts. But you can't send me a top mount keyboard and expect me not to build it top mount. Generally speaking, if you send me a plateless keyboard, I will build it plateless. But now that like I remember correctly, when I got the CU60 and the 65, like immediately my brain went very specifically towards like a particular like sound and feel I wanted to go for. But the machining here is top tier. The anodizing is top tier. I don't see any hook marks. I don't see any like issues with the anodization on the inside. Like it's a little dirty, but that's fine. We can see that there is a tiny little force break on all of these screwless mount locations, which I'm pretty sure those put in quite a bit of work because for a top mount board, generally the way that acoustics work when you type on a top mount board is your plate PCB assembly is attached only to the top. So when you type on it, all the vibrations are on the top and you need a way of moving those vibrations down to the bottom. And, that's why we, include large weights in the bottom of a keyboard to help kind of dampen that vibration, right? This kind of creates a disconnect. So instead of the vibrations transversing from these little mount points to right over here and creating basically a high-pitched little bridge for the vibrations to move through because the material is not very large. What they did instead is they force braked it, and then you rely on these other points of contact all across it. So you're essentially trying to eliminate these from the equation, is what I think they tried to do, at least sonically, which I think is a cool concept for doing screwless, because a lot of people don't consider the implications of these tiny little nubs and the fact that if they're your most grounded, solid connection between your top case and your bottom case, that's where the majority of your vibrations are going to flow through. And as a result, that means you're going to end up with like a high-pitch pinging or high-pitch rattle or just a higher pitch sounding board. So yeah, there's our top. Again, we have the same engraving here. And the bottom here is a singular piece, and it's got its weight right there. And the weight is held in with 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 screws, looks like. And that is the same exact assembly that we saw on the 60, which leads me to believe that if I open this up and flip it around, there's a chance we're going to see 2 internal steel weights in this instead of batteries. Let me pull the weight on this, by the way. You guys can probably like do the math and figure out that this should be about, I don't know, about 2120 grams ballpark. No, it's only 1909. Again, you will get my letter of resignation. Don't worry, guys. All right, I'm going to open this up. Normally, I don't really open up boards like during reviews, but I'm just curious because these come in solder, they come in hot swap, and then they come in hot swap with wireless. And I don't think any of these 3 boards I have used wirelessly, but I have tried the Alice Duo, the recent board, and the wireless implementation on that board is phenomenal. All right, let me open this up real quick with this tiny little screwdriver. I'll probably cut forward. Alrighty, we've got all the screws out right here. A couple of them are still floating. Whoop. There we go. That is 1 screw. And we got 1 more stuck in there. Yeah, there we go. We got all the screws out. So this is the bottom piece. We can see that they've done a very similar engraving style to something like the glare. So the idea is to go a little bit deeper in these channels that are directly underneath the alpha rows. This is done for 2 reasons. One of the primary reasons is to allow a little bit more space so you prevent shorting out or bottoming out on the bottom case. With something like hot swap, it would be bottoming out. Something like solder, you're risking potentially having your 2 switch pins touch the bottom and conduct and then give you a phantom key press. Thing number 2 is by opening up a little bit of depth and putting little ridges in between that depth, you're creating a more complex surface for sound to hit. And this is something that we've seen benefits of from many boards where they will put in a brass weight underneath the alphas, but then give a ridges or holes or steps or some sort of geometry. So when the sound hits it, it doesn't just reflect back without anything in the way. This basically adds more bouncing, and then sound can kind of like cancel itself out more. So it acts as a dampening thing. So let's flip this over and have a look. And yep, indeed, we have 2 steel weights, which means if you get the wireless version of this, you're probably going to be dealing with a little bit less heavy of a board. Should I get these out? I'm going to weigh one of these weights because I assume they're all uniform across all of the boards. And they are predominantly used as fillers when you don't have when you don't have Bluetooth. Oh, that's quite light. Ooh. And these are force braked as well. So I presume all of them are force braked. So this feels relatively light for a weight. Like, is this even steel? Yeah, this is steel for sure. So this is what, like 240 grams if I had to guess? No, not even close. Wow. I guess two of them are 240 grams. Wow, that's very minimal. Okay, so I was thinking like the weight difference of going with wireless would have been big, but it's only going to be a 240 gram difference. That's real interesting. Okay, so same style daughter board that we saw before. This daughter board is white as opposed to the other one that's in black. I don't know why that is a thing because they look identical to me. They've got the sorry that it's so shiny, by the way. There we go. All right. So it's got the 2 little connectors going off to the batteries. It's got the same exact assembly for this bit right here. So it looks very, very similar. Actually, interesting. Okay, so actually this PCB that houses the pogo pin connector is actually slightly larger than the other one. So I guess there are multiple versions. Interesting. I mean, you can presume that if you buy one of these, it's going to have a similar one to one of these. So, oh, so that's how they do it. Okay, so this is the external weight. So this is steel. It's weird because it looks goldenish, but this is most definitely steel, and it is PVD'd. And the way that they do all these little components is with this little circle and this little diamond. That's very cool. So that very complex weight design is just three parts. It's the external weight, it's this little round thing that gives us the three nubs, and it's this little compass needle that gives us that portion and the middle. That's a very cool implementation, I'm not gonna lie. Did I just put this in backwards? Nope, that is correct. All right, and then let's put this back together like so. There we go. All right, fantastic. All right, what direction is that? That is correct. I will put this back together off screen, and we will talk about the plate PCB assembly. We'll talk about just usage in general, and we'll talk about build experience and typing experience. So I'm very sorry that off the top of my head, I don't remember what these switches are, but in the typing test recordings, I will let you know the exact switches, the exact everything in every single build, so you have an idea of what you're listening to. So I use the included stabs. I put a little bit of BDZ on it, a little bit of Dragon Ball Z. It's all it needed. Fantastic. The PC plate doesn't have a billion meme cuts, which is very nice. So I presume, I mean, the place you want to check for meme cuts is usually your tab key. There you go. There's no meme cuts. Is there a meme cut on control? I wouldn't consider that a meme cut. That's generally a reset switch cut. That's a classic cut right there. The plate is good. Remember that the stock version does not come with a plate. It's priced without a plate. You can build it plateless. But when I saw this and I saw how incredibly dense this 60% was, right? Because it's the weight of like a big TKL with a decent amount of weights. I figured that if I went with a if I went with a polycarbonate plate, right, and I went with DCS right here, so slightly more high-pitched ABS than something like GMK. So I'm doing ABS because I know ABS is going to be a little bit louder than PBT. And then I comboed it with a polycarbonate plate, which is also known for making things a little bit louder. Not as loud as something like steel or something like carbon fiber, but PC is good because the second thing that I wanted for was to deepen the sound. Because generally when you're dealing with a board like this that's really dense, perhaps you've built a 75% that's really dense. 75s are just known for just like always sounding really dense. One of the ways that you can get around it is to make it louder. And once you make it louder, you've got to make it boomier, right? So that's why I put no coverings under this. So I think this was the boomiest sound I could get out of it. Like it's still relatively high pitched, but in the 60% form factor, it actually fits quite well. The PCB very similar to the other PCB. As solid, it works. They're different PCBs, keep in mind. They're not the same. Yep, decent layout support, 7U. It's the very least that I'd expect from a 60%. We talked about the mounts, but there's a few mounting types. I'm not going to show you them. You can look at the product page if you care. We're mostly talking about the experience. We're talking about the quality. And all in all, the quality of this is insane. Now, I'm going through these boards in a very specific order because I'm basically doing them in order of value, because the 60% CU is insanely heavy, and an insane amount of engineering and an insane amount of technology for such a cheap price. But the 65 is the same price. So For build recommendations for this, uh, if you're looking for plateless, go plateless. These come as plateless by default, and that is for a good reason. The plateless implementation is good. I did play around with the plateless, but acoustically, it's not what I was looking for. Now, if you're going to go copper instead of brass bottom, you're going to have a harder time because it's going to be a teensy bit more higher pitched and a teensy bit more dense, which I'd personally want to avoid. I think both for the 60 and the 65Cu, going with a brass bottom, which is the standard bottom, so you don't have to pay extra, is absolutely the best play. For a plate, if you're going to do a 60, you're going to need to make it a little bit boomier. So consider a carbon fiber plate. Consider well, actually, let's start with keycaps. Consider DCS caps. Consider GMK caps, even GMK caps. GMK caps are louder than PBT. DCS is louder than GMK, but it's higher pitched. So the combo that I did, which is make it high pitch and loud, reduce the pitch, you could do it another way. So you could come with GMK, for example, that wouldn't massively make the pitch higher, for example, and then go with something more standard like a aluminum plate. I wouldn't really mess with a carbon fiber plate with something like this. I think like you got to make the board a little bit bigger for that to make sense. So build recommendations: use the stock stabs, use deep sounding switches. You're going to need it because, again, this is very high pitch. These are factory lubed switches that are full Milky. So historically, those are relatively deep sounding switches if you've ever used GAT Pros, lubed GAT Pros, and then PC to even it all out. So I think that's what it needs. Whatever build you go for has got to make it louder and make it a little bit deeper. That's if you're trying to go for kind of the sound experience that I built this for. But of course, if you're trying to do something different, that's totally okay. Again, the typing test for this will be after I look at the third video, so you can skip forward to that if you want to check out the typing test. I'll let you know the exact everything in here, and you can also hear a comparison of the different builds because they're all wildly different, which is nice. All right, I will see you guys. Oh, wait. No, we did the screw review. All right. I'm going to cut to the 65. All right. I hope you guys are ready for keyboard number 3. Let me just pull the whole thing across. All righty. So this is the last of the trio. This is the 65. I have it here in, I guess this is teal. And unfortunately, we did get bamboozled, and this is the copper bottom instead of the brass bottom. So there might be a tiny little weight difference between this and the standard copper version. As is customary, we're going to start immediately with the weight. This is probably 2551 if I had to guess. It is 2661. Oh. Hey, look at that. I was exactly 100 grams off. But that is very, very, very heavy for a 65%. So quite a lot of material here. And a reminder, this costs the same as the 60%, okay? So Neo's putting in the work. From the top, very clean, very simple. Look at it. It's got what I would consider to be one of the more correct 65% layouts. 1.51, 1.57, 1.5. I would have also accepted a blocker, but this is a very standard 65. There's no, when I said blocker, I mean wing keyless, okay? There's no top right blocker. There's no stupid stuff going on over here. It's actually done very, very nicely. The blue color is honestly quite nice. Teal is generally, teal and cyan are known to be like low quality anno colors, just because like when you see a bad version of them, they're so bad. But this is fantastically done. This kind of reminds me of the 1.2 OG in blue that I had reviewed from Matrix probably 3-4 years back, something like that. But like very similar color tone. Like the color itself might be different, but like the vibe is very similar. Again, when we look at it from the side, we've got the same exact CU design. So again, this is their design on the 60, on the 65, and even their 75. I really hope they do a TKL like this. It would be insane to get like a 3 kilo TKL for $300 with like these design elements and a nice brass bottom. Ooh. So again, very simpler, very similar. No real differences here. This version has a darker rainbow PVD. It's real hard to see the rainbow. Here, I'll help you guys see the rainbow. 1 second. But I just gotta get the angle. Oh, there you go. You guys see that? That is a white light up there, but the left side is color accurate and the right side is more tinted towards gold, and about over here it's tinted towards purple. Very cool. We can see that this little insert right here actually matches the anodization color of the board, which I didn't even realize on the 60%, but very cool. Very similar design. It's exactly the same thing, just stretched out. Exactly the same thing. They use the same foot structure. So this is a 65% foot. By the way, I think the reason my 60% feet didn't fit is because they accidentally sent me a 65% foot. But feet are identical. There's not much else. Let's open her up. I'm going to try and remember again where the screwless mount points are. There's one. Probably one over here. I don't think there is. Maybe there's one under the spacebar. There was not. As you can see, I went carbon fiber. Now, that is a rarity. Generally, carbon fiber is not something that I would recommend to anybody building a keyboard unless you know exactly what you're doing. Now, that's not me being like, oh, I'm big, smart, fancy man. I'm just saying carbon fiber is real hard to work with because, let's see if I can spot any screws. Aha, I spot one. Right, let's see if I can spot any more screws. Nope, there's probably one here in the Baka space. There's not. Huh. All right, well, I'm gonna undo the ones I see and like maybe that's enough. So carbon fiber generally sounds very glassy if you don't know what you're doing, because carbon fiber plates, right, are not just carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is a fiber, right? Like a clothing fiber. So it's coated in various layers of resin. So what you're primarily hearing is the resin. And generally that sounds very glassy. But there is a very specific use case for when you want to use a carbon fiber plate. And that is if you get a board that, for example, sounds way too dense and way too low-pitched, or way too dense and just muffled, where you legit can't get any actual sound out of the board. So that's like the break glass in case of emergency like route for dealing with a board that sounds really dense, is embrace the fact that it's going to keep sounding high-pitched, but just make it significantly louder. Because I don't know, I guess like some people might like prefer silent boards and stuff like that, but not for me. How are we doing? All right, so apparently we're missing a singular screw here-ish. Yep, there it is. We found it. See, you don't need to remember where the screws are. You just need to vaguely look for them in between keycaps and then randomly pull at your keyboard edges. Oh, there we go. All right, top comes right off. These are real weird screwless mount locations, but whatever, we'll get to that later. Let's pull this assembly out. Again, very similar. Very similar. I keep saying simpler instead of similar. Very similar to the other two boards. You've got your little pogo pin. You've got this bit right here. From a pure build experience, having that is spectacular, especially with like the comparison of like I built a Elysium recently. Elysium is a board by Helix, the guys that did like the crazy one with the hieroglyphs coming out that were anodized a different color. Yeah, this one's themed after the Pantheon. It's insane. And you have to like route so many cables all over the place, and they're all so thin and flimsy, and it's so scary, and all you have to do is make one mistake. This is great. You can't screw this up. You literally take your plate and you put it down, and it's there. It's connected. Like right now, if I were to plug this in, it would work because it just instantly connects. It's very cool. All right, let's tour the rest of the case before we look at the plate PCB combo. The screws on this, by the way, are identical to the 60Cu. They're the same black screws. So don't hold your breath for a screw review. All right, so top case, very similar vibes to the 60. We can see that the top mount locations are like all the way pushed down, similar to the 60. I built this slightly differently than the 60. The 60, I wanted to go top mount. For this one, I wanted to go gasket mount. So similar to the 60, we can see that they've added force brakes, though they added force brakes to these little side mounts, and there's really nothing else holding the board on the side. It's a seamless board, so by default, give me one quick sec. Oh, God, she heavy. All right. It's a seamless board, so by default, there should be basically zero overlap on the right side. Like one just, okay. Okay, I see where it lands. I see where it lands. So they expect the bottom to land here and here. But the fact that there's still a screw mount point here, even though you've got the force brake on it, you're still passing vibrations through it. Then again, the mounts are not on the side. So maybe not. Like when you're dealing with gasket versus something like top mount, dealing with the top is not as big of an issue, right? Because with something gasket mount, right, it's friction fit into the bottom. Sorry, it's friction fit into the top, but also the bottom. So you kind of get to dampen on both the top and the bottom at the same time, which is kind of cool. Anyway, let's go back to the case. It's basically identical. These little mount points are a little bit different, but same. Just a little bit bigger. And here we've got our bottom piece. Now, this is a much fancier PVD than like the entry-level one. I think you have to pay like $10 whole extra to like have this. I'm not a big fan of PVD. If I'm not mistaken, there might be a brushed stainless steel option, and you should absolutely get that because if you touch it once, it's fingerprinted forever. I mean, it's not. You can wipe it, but like you can put your nose on it. And yeah, not great. So same decent assembly. It all fits together. It's all great. This one is copper instead of brass. It's fine, whatever. So let's look at the plate PCB assembly. So on the 60%, I used these mounts here to mount it to the top of the case. But on the 65, I used the PCB mounts. So there are little PCB grommets here that have a pointy little PP sticking out. And that pointy little PP matches up with tiny little holes here in the bottom of the case. Right there, 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 and so forth. So those keep the plate PCB assembly aligned with the bottom. So I guess technically it would be more of a bottom mount gasket than a sandwich mount gasket, but it is what it is. So it just sits right there nicely on the bottom, like so, and it gives you quite a bit of bounce. Also, another reason why I went with carbon fiber. So carbon fiber, although being high-pitched, glassy, loud, has an advantage of being able to be incredibly flexy. For bounce, a plate doesn't matter because bounce means the entire plate moves up and down. It could be made out of depleted uranium. It shouldn't matter. But for flex, for carbon fiber, you will get a little bit more flex. And there's a sweet spot that I love when it comes to doing builds, which is getting something that's very bouncy, but then making it very flexy at the same time. And having that combo of the flex bounce is just massive. Oops. Okay. PCB, very similar to the 6G. Plate, carbon fiber, but very similar to the 6G. The switches here, again, these are Neo switches. I'll let you know what these are. These are not factory lubed, from what I can tell. These are non-lubed linears, whereas the others were lubed linears. Don't worry, I will let you know in the typing test what they are. All right. Now, this comes plateless. And traditionally, like if you're looking at this from a pure value perspective, and you want to get the entry level model, which has the brass bottom and the plateless mount. So similar to this, it would mount in the same way using these little gaskets, but you wouldn't have a plate there. It's a very, very good plateless implementation. It was designed to be plateless from the get-go, and that's an amazing thing, right? Because generally designers will go plateless in one of two scenarios. Either they're very based individuals with a very high IQ and lots of culture, or they're trying to, save a tiny bit of cost. Now, Neo boards have historically gotten cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and better and better and better, right? And it's very clear that, if they wanted to save cost, well, that guy right there, that's the most expensive bit, followed by that for sure. So I don't think it's a cost saving measure, and you can tell by the typing experience, even on a hot swap PCB, on a sussy Bakeneko, sorry, the plateless experience is fantastic. So going plateless on this is not a cope. Going plateless on this is kind of what it was designed for. Now, yeah, sure, I went carbon fiber here and PC in the other one, but I wanted to see the variety. I had never reviewed a Neo board because Neo boards weren't necessarily beneath me, but they were always very entry level in terms of price, but in terms of quality, we're a little bit better than that. And I think that in the last 18 months, or it might be 24 months, Neo has pivoted so hard to be a lot more like TKD, to be a lot more like the big value designers that are just like, you know what? We're going to make 15,000 of these minimum or 20,000 of these minimum. Let's make the absolute best thing we possibly can. And I love that they've gone plateless by default. I love all the options that you get. And I think that from a value perspective, if you're looking for a 65% or a 60% and you're not buying one of these, it means you're looking for a lighter board, because that's the only reason to not buy any of these, is they are heavy. Maybe you just want an acrylic Frog Legera or something. Maybe you want a split keyboard. I mean, okay, Neo has a split keyboard, but hey, value, top tier. So build wise, this guy, again, very, very similar to the type of vibe that I went for the 60%. I wanted to make it boomier. I wanted to make it louder. And carbon fiber is absolutely the play. Carbon fiber is going to increase your pitch a lot, but you can tell here I went GMK instead of DCS. So that's going to reduce it a little bit, right? And the switches I used are decently deep sounding, but I think this build, I mean, you guys will be able to hear it during the typing test. I think it's mint, but lubed switches would be a massive improvement for something like this, because it's loud enough. It just needs a little bit more depth to it. My recommendations for something like this, if you're going to build it plateless, new generation lubed GAT-X, if you can get them for a reasonable price. As a matter of fact, forget about actual brand names and everything. It's all about price. If you can get a nice, deep sounding factory lubed linear or tactile that you enjoy for, let's say, under 38 cents a switch, and put it in something like this, plateless with just the standard gasket mount and the standard brass bottom with whatever the cheapest like external weight option is, I think you would be stupid to not buy this 65, is my general premise. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this back together, and we're going to go into the typing tests, and then eventually I'll do the summary. So for the typing tests, I will have the typing tests in order of the keyboards that I have shown. So it'll be the Core, then the 60Cu, then the 65Cu. I'd recommend listening to all three so you get an idea of like what are the actual differences of the board. If you vary up the builds, what can you reasonably get out of it? And yeah, There's a disclaimer in the description explaining how I do my sound testing. It might sound different than you're used to. It may not sound good to you, but read the words and trust. All right, I'll see you guys there. And here are the keyboards. This is going to be the summary. This is going to be one of those videos where I'm going to assume a lot of people didn't watch the whole thing because it's 3 separate reviews in one full video, but I'll give you the cliff notes. The Core 60 is kind of pricey for what it is. Still feels and sounds spectacular. It's an incredibly heavy one-piece friction fit O-ring or gasket keyboard that can be PCB mount or plate mount. I find it to be a nice typing experience, though for round about the same price, if not a little bit lower. You can go Hall effect, you can probably get a lot more fancy, though it will not weigh as much as this does. Though generally, I'm not actively looking for super heavy 60% personally, so I don't know. This one is kind of the black sheep. These two, the 60Cu and the 65Cu, are god tier value when it comes to what they're putting out in the market. You may not like how I did my builds, but I tried to do a decent amount of variety just to see what these things could do. Because this was plateless, sounds a little bit high pitched. This is with a PC plate, but sounds boomy and loud. And this with a carbon fiber plate sounds glassy and like boomy, I guess. Value perspective, they're all amazing. The screws in there are pretty damn good. Is there realistically something in the market that can compete with this right now? No, there's no TKD65, unfortunately. They've got the Part 175, and to be fair, Neo started with the 75 first, so it makes sense. If I were to try and figure out like the quality difference between something like this and the Part 175, which I have right here, unbuilt, but we're simply looking at a materials thing. Like, this kind of looks a lot more insane than this. Like, this is a real simple side profile. There's a lot of internal weights and whatnot, but you know, this is a piece of aluminum. This is all brass, and that's just crazy. And I think that I don't know, the value is just insane. Neo has gotten a lot better at value. Neo is always good at value, but their value has gotten to the point where their $165 65% is an actual solid deal for anyone to get. So I think that's my take. I do recommend, like, if you're seriously interested in one of the boards, go back, watch the portion for that board, get a good feel for it. It's like most of the video is just like a walkthrough showing you all the different parts. So the more interested you are, the more you can watch and the more you will learn. I'll put links in the description if you guys want to buy these. They're all available right now, I believe. You can just buy them, which is great. As always, it's not an affiliate link. There's no sponsors. There's no money changed hands. All the general rules of Black Simon apply. Again, I apologize that I have not posted in so long, but I was in the middle of a massive move. So from me to you, to me, to you, to the other guy, thanks for watching my keyboard review, and I'll see you on the next one.